Hey friends, before we start the video, I just want to say that some of the stories in here might be triggering for some, and extremely graphic. Watch at your own risk. Also, Stephanie Johnson has big balls. Thank you. To the person who reads this, I write this in hopes that anyone will find it and read it. I need a chance to explain myself and why things happened the way they did. I need forgiveness, though I know with every fiber of my soul that I'm unworthy of it. I hope you can at least understand. It was meant to be a cure, not this. We were trying to cure death. I was trying to cure death. I wanted to end suffering. No more pain, no more illness, just everlasting life. That was all I ever wanted, since I was a little boy, and I worked night and day trying to figure out how. See, the serum was supposed to force your cells into constant rejuvenation, and fix any damage done to you. Broken arm? No problem. It's fixed within minutes, with the serum. Heart stop from a heart attack? No problem either. But every time I tried to bring my theories and formulas to research labs, I was soundly laughed out of the building. I never thought my dream would see the light of day, until they contacted me. Yes, them. The largest pharmaceutical company in the world. They had heard of my theories and proposed and offered to fund all my research into it. They offered me a ridiculous, insane amount of money, enough to cure world hunger 3 times over. God, I wish I had done that instead. With their deep pockets, I was able to hire the best scientists and researchers. I was able to build the best lab with state-of-the-art equipment. Anything I wanted, I received. It was truly marvelous. But the work was slow going. For every step we took forward in our research, we took 3 steps back. So many dead animal subjects, year after year. More moving forward slightly, then moving backward. At first, the serum would cause violent hemorrhaging from every orifice, followed by death. Death occurred 5 seconds after the injection. It was terrible, but we were determined. Then when we finally hit pay dirt, 2 of our rhesus macaques survived their injections. Those 2 were given a variant of the serum, which provided to be a gigantic success. To say we were all ecstatic is an understatement. I don't know when I received as many hugs as I did that day. Of course, we had to test it out. We needed to see how well the serum worked. We removed limbs only to see them regrow back within a matter of minutes. Removed organs and saw them regrow as well. Hell, we even decapitated one of them to see if it would grow back too. It didn't. We did learn with the second one that if you leave the head close enough, the head would reattach itself, and the monkey would continue as if it never lost its head. It was truly remarkable how effective the serum was. I was so damn eager to share my success with my benefactor that I called him immediately that night. It must have been maybe 4 in the morning, but he was just as excited as we were, and drove straight to the lab to see the results. After seeing the rhesus, he ordered us to begin human testing immediately. I wish I could say that I loudly protested against this. I wish I could say that I objected, even a little before starting it. I can't. Truth be told, I wanted the test on humans as quickly as possible. I didn't have to wait years for approval, after years of endless disappointment. I was lucky, or rather unlucky, that my colleagues agreed with my sentiment. We had one of the lab assistants find a volunteer to bring in so he can test the serum on the person. He brought in someone who was obviously homeless, and obviously a drug addict. I guess he lured her in by promising her drugs. I don't know. She was situated onto a bed and hooked up to all sorts of monitors, so we can see her vitals in real time. I wasn't in the room during this or during the injection, but I was watching from a one-way mirror in the conference room next door. She was fidgety, demanding whatever drug the assistant promised her, in trashy English. I ordered the technician to inject the serum into her vein and waited. She died. It was heartbreaking. All that work, all the success with those fucking monkeys, flushed down the toilet. How? How could this happen? She didn't even last 2 seconds. I wasn't expecting what happened next. She moved. She came back to life, though none of the monitors showed any vital signs coming from her. She stood up jerkily, paced the room with a hunger and expression I've never seen before. She was astonishing, but it still made no sense that she wasn't showing any vital signs. After all, we thought, how could you be dead if you're still moving around? We had Trent go in to check her leads and see if the system was malfunctioning. Upon entering the room, he got visibly sick and began to gag. We asked him what was wrong, and he told us that there was a terrible smell emitting from the test subject. I'm sorry to say, I insisted that he continued with the task he was given. I'll never, ever forget what happened next. She lunged at him. Trent was so shocked by this that he fell backwards and landed on the ground with her on top of him. Then she tore a giant chunk of flesh right out of his neck and threw it in her mouth. The noise she made while eagerly chewing on Trent's flesh and organs has haunted me since this all started. And poor Trent. Oh God, Trent, she just ripped into him, his organs spilling out everywhere. At least his death was quick. He didn't have to feel that pain for very long, but I imagine the few seconds he did feel were the worst of his short life. Then Trent moved. He just stood up and began eating at his own innards strewn all over the floor. One of my colleagues threw up right next to me. Another called security. God, I wish they hadn't. They managed to kill Trent and the woman, but not before Trent bit one of the security guards. 5 seconds. 5 seconds was all it took to turn him into one of them. He in turn attacked his fellow guards, until everyone had been transformed into these monsters. 30 seconds. That's all it took. Needless to say, it didn't take them long to go through the entire building, killing and infecting everyone. Everyone but me. They never attacked me, even though I was right there along with my colleagues as they were being eaten and turned. They would stop and stare at me shortly, before moving on to their next victim. It was like they knew I was their father. That they were my sick, monstrous children. I don't know how long it has taken for my world to be overturned with them. I don't know how many survivors are left. The TV went out a long time ago. The generators lost power yesterday. But I've been working day and night since they started, hoping to find a cure. Hoping to find a way to make amends for what I have brought onto this world. I am so sorry. I'm so very sorry. There is no cure. No matter what I did, what I tried, nothing has worked. I cannot take the shame of my failure any longer. I took the guns off one of the guards and have locked myself in this room. The room where everything began. I can see my children outside watching me. Do they know what I'm about to do? God, please forgive me. Forgive me for not being brave. Forgive me for my vanity. Forgive me for thinking I can do better than you. Survivor, forgive me for giving you a world where there is no hope and only walking dead bodies as company. I'm sorry. Dr. Alan Rosen. My mother used to always say we wear 2 masks for the world to see. One is what you wear among people. The other is to placate us and hide from the truth about ourselves. Knowing your true self and those around you would be the end of the world. I always thought that was kind of stupid. Sure, I can get behind the concept of a mask that we wear around others, even those we love. I mean, you don't go around telling every person you meet every single dark or naughty thought that goes through your head, would you? That idea I could get behind. But the second mask was just plain silly. How could you not know who you really were? I certainly thought I knew exactly what kind of person I am. Or so I thought anyway. Talk about a giant mistake. I remember the day when all the masks fell around the world. As we knew it ended, I had been walking home from work that day, thoroughly annoyed over having to work late for the 3rd day in a row, since my asshole of a coworker left early because of an emergency. Emergency. What bullshit. She just wanted to get out early, so she could sleep off the latest hangover. If my mom's words were true, I can only imagine what kind of person she was underneath it all. But I'm straying away from the story, and for that I apologize. As I said, I was walking home from work. The light of the setting sun making the landscape around me look like a beautiful watercolor painting. There were people up and down the sidewalk, no doubt, just as eager as I was to get home. They looked happy. That was about to change. I remember contemplating stopping off at a bar for an after-work drink, when a brilliant orb of light blossomed suddenly into the darkening sky. I remember seeing people stop in their tracks, and brakes screeching to a halt as everyone looked up. What was that light we had all just collectively thought? I heard panicked voices as people pointed and speculated. Then, that sound. This loud screeching wail assaulted everyone's ears and caused windows to shatter. Some people even fainted. I think I didn't, at least, not right away. I had my ears covered, and I looked up into the sky for a final time before the light became too intense. Then I blacked out. I had awoken hours later to find myself lying on the ground. The bodies of the others around me were my company. No one had stirred, and I remembered feeling so terribly scared that I was surrounded by nobody but corpses. I had crawled onto the one closest to me, a young woman who didn't even look old enough to drink. Her face was obscured by her hair, but I can see a small pool of blood slowly growing in the size around her. I feared she was seriously hurt. I didn't make the conscious decision to turn her over. It was as if my hands moved on their own accord. I had to know if she was alright. I had to know if she was still alive. Please, I had thought, please be alive. Her face. My God, it was grotesque. The skin, the cartilage of her nose was gone, and gaping hole in its place. An eyeball had popped out of one socket and swung slightly from the movement. But it was the rest of the face that was the most appalling to me. Her skin was black in some areas, as though the hottest of fires had burned her. Spots of her skull poked out among the black mess, a stark contrast to everything else. The skin on her cheeks had swollen to a ridiculous size, making her look like something you would see in those old freak shows. I gasped and stumbled back, really freaked out what I had seen. My stomach had heaved, threatening to spill all the acid bubbling within. I never got a chance to. In the distance, I heard a scream. It was so primal and seductive. Another scream echoed in response, and I recall how my very being wished to join in with their song. What was wrong with me? I asked myself then. More screams erupted as people began to wake up. Each and every one of them were all disfigured in some way, and those who weren't had never gone up from the ground. They would later be called the blessed. I had looked at each and every one of them and felt anger well up inside me. I don't really know why, but when I stopped to think about it now, the only explanation I can give myself was that the weak needed to be cold. Only the strong would survive. In a fury I didn't know I possessed, I leapt to the one closest to me. My body had moved so elegantly, far more nimble than I had ever been in my previous life. I had ripped into him savagely, flaying flesh from muscle. His screams were the most delectable sound I had ever heard. I had continued to tear into him. A strong instinct to kill, to utterly destroy him, coursed through me, setting my mind and body aflame with righteous abandonment. It didn't take long for him to expire. I remember smiling after that. I had wanted to kill more. I had wanted to see the look of pure terror in their ruined eyes as they died. Then people around me had screamed. It sounded delicious. I don't recall what happened after that. All I remember is that when I had finished, pieces of their bodies littered the ground like trash. But I didn't feel bad about it. Quite the contrary. I had felt exhilarated. I felt more alive than I ever felt. I don't want it to stop. But there had been a window to the right of me that had been spared the shattering its siblings received. I could see myself for the first time since waking up. I was hideous. I was beautiful. My face was covered in black markings that looked like an intricate tattoo. They had looked like a written language of some time long past. They had glowed against my now impossibly pale skin, and my eyes lighting danced in step with the rapid beat of my heart. The eternal screams in the distance had started up again, and I ran, desperate to find the source. When I finally found it, there had been others like me, with the same markings and the same lightning electrifying their eyes. I had found my home. It's hard to remember what life was like before the orb of light fell down from the sky and turned everyone into their true selves. Some were killed within the first hour after the awakening. Even more would die as the unending night stretched into weeks and months. Those that managed to survive had formed their own packs in a desperate attempt at protection. Protection from us. The lightning. I know, it's a stupid name, and trust me, we didn't choose it. We prefer to call ourselves by a different name. Our true name, the Zero. We were awakened for one single purpose: to end the world of its filth and decay. To rid it of the pestilence called humanity. It won't be long now. Then, we'll be allowed to rest until we're called forth again. But why am I telling you this in a journal? That will no doubt look like scribbles to you. The answer is simple. It is a warning. Do not follow the path of those before you. Do not suffer the same fate as them. You know what? Never mind. Forget all I have said. Please indulge. I beg you, for I am bored and desperate to be released again.